Chef Maria, the Fit Foodie here, and welcome to The Real Dish, where we give you expert advice and inspiration to help you live the fit life and thrive. And on the show, I interview New York Times bestselling author Jonathan Bailor. He's an internationally recognized wellness expert who really specializes in bringing modern science and technology into play to simplify health. He's collaborated with top scientists for more than a decade and has analyzed and applied over 1,300 studies to develop his perspective. His work's been endorsed by top doctors and scientists from the Harvard Medical School to Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, and beyond. He's the founder of SaneSolution.com, and his best-selling book, The Calorie Myth, is a must-read. You can also hear Jonathan's popular syndicated radio show, The Sane Show, and he was kind enough to have me on as a guest. You'll have to listen to that episode. With that, I can't wait for you to hear how you can help make your practice of health sane. Let's dish! Jonathan Bailor, welcome. It is so good to talk to you.
Hey, it's great to be here, Maria. Thank you so much for having me.
I am a huge fan of yours because you teach people how to be sane. And it's not just about sanity in life, but it's about sanity related to food and our habits. And can you just give us a little bit of a background on how you really happened upon that position? Because, you know, it gets pretty frenetic out there. It's hard to figure out what to follow.
My story is a long one, and I know we don't have a huge amount of time, so I'm going to give you the short version, but the short version of my story is that I was and continue to be a naturally thin person. So growing up, I wanted to be bigger, which I know most Americans cannot relate to that feeling. But, you know, there's a whole, like, if you go to supplement stores, it's like weight gainer. I mean, there are people who it's like, I can't gain weight even if I try.
Right.
So growing up, I struggled to get bigger and stronger. I wanted to be athlete like my older brother. And I followed all the traditional methods to do that. In fact, I went so far as to become a personal trainer. That's the way I paid my way through college. I was a trainer over at Ballet Total Fitness in Columbus, Ohio. And I had an experience in doing that, which changed my life forever. And that was, here I am in my, at this point, late teens, early 20s, eating 6,000 calories per day, as I was taught, because I was told that if you want to get bigger, you just need to eat more calories. And I would tell my clients, who were predominantly females, who were at that time significantly older than I was and definitely way more accomplished and more intelligent than I was, because I was just kind of a dumb kid at that time, with respect for myself. But I would tell them, you know, you're not trying hard enough. You need to eat 1,200 calories per day. And then after a while, I had to look in the mirror and say, Jonathan, you're eating 6,000 calories per day and not getting bigger. And your clients, who by no stretch of the imagination are stupid or lazy, because they're doctors and attorneys and they're running families and they're parents, and they're CEOs, they're not stupid and lazy, and they are doing what you're telling them to do, which is to eat 1/5 of the calories you're eating, and they're not getting smaller. So what are you doing, man?
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Take a step back. So, you know, that changed my life, and I couldn't do what I think a lot of naturally thin people do, which is just sort of say it's an effort problem and everyone else just needs to try harder, because like I knew I was trying hard to gain weight and I couldn't do it. And I was watching my clients try hard to lose weight and they couldn't do it. So neither one of us had an effort problem. What I came to find out is we had an information problem. So then I spent the past 15 years of my life trying to solve that information problem and seeing what research has actually proven about fat loss and health, rather than what marketers promulgate in the media.
And this is such a huge thing because your research has been backed by prominent universities and you know, really I think the preeminent thinkers in this space. So that said, you know, even with the science behind it, what did you find? Did you find that it was really about the food, or were there other things that were, you know, no pun intended, but weighing into people's ability to stabilize their weight?
There's many other factors. And in fact, the assumption that, hey, it's just calories in, calories out, like that was assumed to be true for so long. I mean, it was actually that was never science. Like it was just an assumption. And any study, and in fact, this is what the statement I'm about to make about to make right now is a very hard statement to make, and I make it cautiously, but it is 100% true. Every single study ever that has tracked precisely calories in and calories out in what's called like a metabolic ward study, where they can like really do this in a hardcore fashion, and they like, not to get gross, but they like measure fecal excrement, like it's precise stuff. And they try to look at calories in versus calories out, and they do what we read about in magazines, which is like reduce your calorie intake by 100 calories per day, and that means you're going to lose this many pounds in this amount of time because your metabolism works like math. And in every single study that has ever done that, they have found without question that metabolic math fails, that it is never, ever the case that if you just add up the number of calories, that this weight loss or weight gain always results. So science has never proven the calories in, calories out simplification that we've all been told. And in fact, every study that's looked at it has proven it wrong. And what studies have also shown is that the reason that metabolic math doesn't add up is calories, they exist and they matter, but they're just one piece of the puzzle, like you alluded to. There's hormonal impact, there's toxins in food, there's stress levels, there's sleep levels, there's age, there's gender, there's so many other factors.
So, okay, now we've complicated the math equation because, we learned 1 + 1 = 2 and 2 - 1 = 1. So yeah, it's easy to think that it's probably the math. So how, my friend, do you stay sane and figure it out? Because it seems like that math equation is truly unique to each individual human being.
The good news is that on the other side of like massive complexity is actually ridiculous simplicity, which is...
Let's break it down. I like simple.
Here's the really simple thing. And it has to be simple. Like, here's just a quick sanity check. Every other species on the planet, which, like, I think we can all agree that humans are the smartest species on the planet. Every other species on the planet, despite being less intelligent than us, is able to regulate their weight. Like, they don't count calories. They can't count calories. They just eat food. They stop when they're full. They eat when they're hungry and they stop when they're full. And even if it's something like a cow, right? Like, all a cow does is eat. It just eats all day.
Right.
Yet a cow left to its own devices, eating food that it's meant to eat, aka grass, is very lean. Like, if you've ever eaten grass-fed beef, it's super lean.
Oh yeah, it's a different animal.
It's literally a different animal. Whereas if you eat corn-fed beef, aka cows eating things they're not supposed to eat, they weren't designed to eat, and they didn't evolve to eat, depending on your various belief systems, they become not cows. They become sort of chunky cows. New kind of cow. Little
fat around the waist. Yeah. You can literally see the difference.
So the simplicity is just, if you look at what people are designed, or however you want to say it, designed or evolved, whatever, to eat, it's very, very simple. When people ate foods that they ate prior to the obesity epidemic, they don't have to think about calories. And they couldn't have thought about calories because we didn't even know what a calorie was prior to the 1850s. So if we just eat food found directly in nature, that in and of itself, like if that's where we started from as children, we would have no obesity epidemic. Now, since we have been lied to for the past 40 years, if we're already overweight and we're already pre-diabetic, we need to go a little bit further than just saying, hey, if it's found in nature, then it's good. Because, for example, there are things like potatoes and rice that are found in nature, which if you're pre-diabetic might not be the best fit for you. But from a high level, like if we just get back to eating food, and food is defined by something you find directly in nature. There is no such thing as a bread bush in nature. It does not exist directly in nature. And we move away from what the average American has been subjected to, which is getting 40 to 60% of their calories from synthetic pseudo food. That in and of itself takes care of the problem. No calorie math needed. So
what do you think? It makes perfect sense that we would prioritize what comes from the ground because that is what's natural. How do you then prioritize how much of those things from the ground to eat? Because one could say, well, eggs are laid by, chickens and that is natural. So I'll just eat eggs all day. Or, one might say, I'm just going to eat all fruits and vegetables and I'm not going to eat anything else. How do we know what the right balance is? Again, I'm talking about the math of macronutrients, but is there science behind proportion?
There's a huge amount of science behind proportion, and what we need to do is we need to break down. This is where the term SANE, it's not a marketing term. I mean, it's a marketing term now, but it originally was developed as a more of a scientific term. It's an acronym. So it's both. It's an acronym for the 4 factors that determine the quality of a calorie. And then that allows us to extrapolate it out and say, well, what types of foods consist of those calories? So what should we be eating? So just to break that down really quickly, the S stands for satiety. That's how quickly a calorie fills us up and how long it keeps us full. And we all know that different foods, same level of calorie, will have different levels of satiety, right? Like if you eat 200 calories of Pringles, it doesn't fill you up. It actually makes you hungrier.
Right.
Right. So that's satiety. The A is aggression. That has to do with the hormonal impact of foods. And we all know, everyone who's listening to this has probably heard of the glycemic index or glycemic load.